Yeah, hi there. These comments are for C, and I am Michael Buckoff, the founder and owner and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-step system to pass a TOEFL IBT. And the advice I'm going to give you right now is going to change your life. And it's going to save you a heck of a lot of money here. I'm telling you. So let's look at your situation. You need to get 85 on the TOEFL IBT, right? You might say an 85 score in the TOEFL IBT. You say my last score is 79, which I got 3 months ago. I'm studying for 1 month. And I finished Kaplan Premium 2018-2019 books, listening and reading parts. I finished also, I would put the also before the verb, not after. So let's see here. I also finished Barron's Essential Words for TOEFL. And I'm taking private lessons for TOEFL IBT from, you want to say, a very well-known teacher in Antalya. You say, I'll take TOEFL exam on 26th of May, the 2nd of June, 22nd of June, and 3rd of July. I need 85 score until half of July. I want to work with you so badly. I need this score for job employment. Then you told me about your version here. Okay. All right, so let's get exactly what your plan is right here. Okay, so first of all, you're using the Kaplan TOEFL book. You're studying Barron's Essential TOEFL Words. You're getting private lessons, and then you're taking the TOEFL test May 26th, June 2nd, June 26th, July 3rd. That's $800 you're spending just on the TOEFL exam. Now, the way that you're preparing for the TOEFL, I coined a term a few years ago. It's called TOEFL-itis. This is exactly what you're suffering from right now. So looking at your schedule here, all of this, you're focusing too much on the exam. You're losing focus of your real intent. Your real intent here is to improve your English so you can communicate with people in the workplace. I mean, you're confusing the two ideas here. The main thing is you need this score for job employment. So your company, for whatever reason, they want you to be able to communicate fluently and clearly in English. They want you to be able to read and understand documents, to understand what people are saying and so on. That is your focus. So let me give you an analogy here. I'm a distance runner. Right? So I like to run. I run every day. I run sometimes 10 to 15 kilometers every day. What if in your marathon training, right? Let's say that you want to run 42 kilometers and then your plan is race a marathon, race another marathon, race another one, and then race another one. What do you think is going to happen to someone who follows this type of schedule for marathon training? You think they will reach their goal? Probably not. They're probably going to burn out. I'm looking at this schedule here. Everything you're doing is focusing on the TOEFL and the TOEFL exam, but you're not really concentrating on authentic English, on improving your exposure to authentic English. The real purpose here is to be able to use English in real, spontaneous kinds of situations. And this plan here is not going to get you there. I would not be surprised if your TOEFL score gets lower as you follow this plan. It would not surprise me at all. Why? Because I've seen it many times. Students who suffer from TOEFL-itis, students who focus too much on the exam, they lose focus of the real intent. They don't reach their TOEFL scores. And based on how many times you want to take this TOEFL exam, you're spending a lot of money and you may not get the results that you really want. And going back to the marathon training thing, so this one, race, this is the worst thing you can do to get ready for a marathon, right? So let me show you how to vary the routine. Now, I'm going to take this metaphor and then I'm going to connect it to your TOEFL preparation and show you how you can vary your TOEFL preparation study so you're not just studying TOEFL all the time. What you're doing is ridiculous. It's not going to get you where you want to be. Right? So marathon training, you have tempo runs. A tempo run might mean that you go for 40 minutes at a half marathon pace or whatever. You have long runs. That means maybe runs of 2 hours or more, hill repeats, intervals, recovery runs. Then you have 2 weeks of tapering, and this is when you reduce your miles, and then eventually you race the marathon. You only do the race once. You don't have to take the TOEFL over and over and over until you pass. That's ridiculous. It's too costly, and it doesn't really help you with your English. The main thing is you want to improve your academic English. Am I right? Just like you want to vary your training schedule with running marathons, you also need to vary your study when you're preparing for the TOEFL exam. So the most important thing I can tell you is this. Remember the 80-20 rule. It means that 80% of everything you do should be spent on authentic reading, listening material, speaking and writing practice. You should be just doing authentic things, not from a TOEFL book. So my first suggestion is find some authentic reading and listening materials. That means magazines, maybe books, even newspapers. Even if it's a Harry Potter book, that would be terrific. But find some reading and listening materials. But this is the key though. As you're reading, I would recommend about 45 minutes every day. You're doing either the reading or the listening practice, and make sure that you're taking notes on the main and the most important supporting points. Then use your notes to do one of two things. You can give a 60-second oral summary of the reading and the listening passage, or you can write a 150 to 250 word summary. I recommend you're doing at least 3 to 5 speaking, what we call oral summaries each week, and 3 to 5 written summaries each week. Now, what are you doing there? You're taking some of the vocabulary and the grammar from the reading and listening passages, and you're practicing them by either speaking about it or by writing about it. That's very good language use practice. Obviously, it's very good reading and listening practice. So that's my first recommendation for you. Remember, I've interviewed about 14 different students, all of whom have scored over 100 on the TOEFL exam. And guess what? Every single one of these students, they didn't spend more than 2 to 3 weeks doing their TOEFL preparation study in terms of using a TOEFL book, for example, Barron's or Kaplan's or an online course or whatever. They didn't spend more than 2 to 3 weeks doing the TOEFL materials. If you ask them, well, how much time did you spend reading and listening and talking with native speakers and all of that, they will tell you several years. You see my point? Now, the next point is, I really recommend my 1-month TOEFL course. This is a very good course. It keeps in mind the 80-20 rule. Most of my course focuses on building your vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, listening, reading, writing, and speaking proficiencies. For example, in the reading part of my course, the most important thing you can do for the TOEFL exam is to improve your reading speed. Why? Because it gives you more time to go through all those reading passages. You have much more time to answer those questions. And guess what? Your reading score goes up. The reading score goes up not because you're really familiar with all the TOEFL reading question types and the strategies for answering them. Your reading speed doesn't go up just because you've completed a whole bunch of reading practice tests. No, your reading score is going to go up because you've actually improved your reading proficiency, right? So once you go through the course, then after the 30 days, complete a full-length 4-hour Ibt practice test. These practice tests are very inexpensive. The TOEFL exam is $200. One of these practice tests is only $35 or $40, and you get the same information you'll get when you take the TOEFL IBT exam. So take the practice test first. Remember, a TOEFL IBT speaking and writing specialist will score all of those tasks. You'll get subtotal scores. You get an overall score. And then if your practice test score is 85 or higher, then that tells you you're ready to take the TOEFL exam. So you don't have to take several different official TOEFL exams to see if you pass or not. That's not going to work. So your plan here, this plan that you have here, this 7-step plan here, if anything, I predict your TOEFL score will be lower than it'll be higher. It'll probably not be any higher than it is right now if you follow this. Why? Because you have TOEFL-itis. You're focusing too much on the exam. You're losing focus of your real intent. That's the key there. I guarantee you, if you follow this is only 4 basic steps here. If you're doing these 4 things, you have a much better chance of reaching your TOEFL target scores than the plan that you're trying to reach. How do I know this? I've taught tens of thousands of students. I've been teaching TOEFL preparation for 22 years at California State University, San Bernardino. I've seen your path, your TOEFL journey. I know students who have taken the TOEFL exam 12, 13, 14 times. They keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And guess what? They get exactly the same disappointing results. My online course looks at TOEFL preparation in a very different way. It gives you a much better rounded approach to improving your English. And guess what's going to happen? If you use my course and follow these steps, your English will be better for the rest of your life, not just for a TOEFL exam. All right? Thank you.